Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of 2 June. Number of items to cover tonight. First, just a couple of announcements. Our town accountant, Mike Lyons, has retired and he's been replaced by Mr. Derek Geiser. Our town administrator has also departed as of last week, and Ms. Marlene Mashansky will be reporting as our new town administrator next week. I'd like to thank the American Legion, the high school band, and the usual folks for putting up the flags and really making our Memorial Day an excellent service. Anyone else have any other announcements for today?
Just to welcome our new member, Ms. Pat Gaughan.
Had it first thing, I apologize.
And to thank
right.
Ed Lesko for his service.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with my colleagues and to better what is a good situation at this point, hopefully making it better for everyone involved. And I'm looking at a substantial part of that right now, an essential part of that right now. Emergency service, dear to my heart.
I did have one other thing. There's a group putting together the 200th anniversary of the Three-County Fair, and they're looking for persons interested in representing Hatfield on the planning committee for that anniversary celebration. If anyone's interested, please contact Keno, and we have correspondence from them and points of contact if you'd like to represent the town. Anyone here for community forum? Tom?
Yeah, it's just, I just want to introduce a new part-time officer, Matt Runyon. I didn't include a resume with him because he's brand new. He just graduated from the part-time academy. He'll be starting the field training portion tomorrow. So I just wanted to introduce him to you.
Welcome.
If you have any questions.
Welcome aboard, Matt. Good luck.
Thank you. Rough town.
You'd be surprised.
Good luck in your program. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you need to vote on him? Because I remember last time we didn't get into we had to come back again because you didn't vote on him, the other guy.
Could you spell his name for the
Yes.
last name?
I have it.
Oh, you have it? Motion to approve designation?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen minutes of 28 April?
So moved.
Please note that I'm
Second. Any changes?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve Board of Session, executive session minutes of 5 May.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Key, are we routinely getting word from the treasurer with applications for licenses on those that have tax issues? Our bylaw says you're supposed to be getting those as a routine. Just wondering if you are.
Only happens once a year.
Well,
So
okay. Are you getting reports in advance?
I don't think so, but I don't think there's a problem.
Okay. DPW?
You want to skip me and
Oh,
deal with the other people, that's fine with me, because I have a bunch of the abatements and stuff, so it's going to be a while. So if you want to take the others out of
I
turn,
see
that's
the
fine.
heads shaking. Thank you.
well, one thing I would like to take up here before we get to abatements. There was an item in your package of the evaluations of the bids for water transmission line. Is there a motion to approve award of the water transmission main Phase 2 contract to Ludlow Construction with a base bid of $992,910?
So move.
Second.
Just for any other discussion, I'll point out this is Phase 2 of the water transmission line. It takes us from the Route 5 and 10 area underneath Interstate 91 and the railroad over toward the Brockway Smith area. Ludlow Construction was the low bidder with 992, 910. This is on the base bid, and the working estimate was $1 million for that portion of the bid. They had very good references. Due diligence has been completed, so folks are happy we got this particular firm. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, we'll come back to it. Would you let Mike Ohl know tonight, just send him an email that the board voted this?
Yes.
Next step is Mike will get with Ludlow Construction, get the paperwork necessary with respect to their bonding and insurance, and they'll sign it and then get it back to us and we sign. We don't need to meet to sign it, but just need to get that moving. Chief Belden? So you're not going to resign or retire?
Well, very so. So,
We need to have a quick discussion.
Excuse me.
Pardon us for a moment here. My son is involved in this whole process. I see it as a concept that's being accepted, and therefore I can retain, my position here at the table and not recuse myself. But if it impacts him personally, then you got to pick me up on it, okay? All right.
All right, I don't know what's going to be presented, so I can't
I live this.
advise.
okay, good evening. So thank you for seeing us this evening. So as you're well aware, I'm reaching the mandatory retirement age come November. And so I will be leaving despite, I'm not going to be staying on, okay? So the fire department is really interested to see what the board thinks about, replacing my position. So as you can see, there's a lot of interest in the department. That, if everybody works hard on this department, we have a great department, and they want to, they're concerned, what's going to happen going forward. So that's why we're here tonight, just to get the ball rolling, so we don't get down to the last minute and
Sure.
something's,
I think I answered your question, or tried to answer it in the mail, an email.
yes, but,
It's an open process. Given how long it takes us, I expect we'd start perhaps in early August. Go through a vacancy announcement, go through a period of time for responses, likely use a screening committee. The screening committee would evaluate the responses to the announcement, interview some, and make a recommendation to the board to further interview those with highest potential. And the board would certainly try to select the most capable and able person with the dollars that we have available, and have that process completed such that there could be some overlap with you, so we don't lose that continuity. And clearly, throughout that process, Chief, we'd be looking to you for some technical assistance.
that's fine, and the other thing is, I'd like to see, the rest of the members of the department, be involved in the process too, and I know there's an interest there for that to happen. So we're hoping the board would, entertain that process, to allow the members of the department, have a voice in who you decide to run the department going forward.
Well, I mean, you'd be their representative to bring forward any concerns or issues or suggestions.
Right, so, well, this is why we wanted to come to the board tonight, to to get your thoughts on everything and, get it
So-
out for everybody, so.
This
Go
is
ahead.
an opportunity, this is a point, we're in a transition point here. And we've had, there's obviously been, within the department, there's been discussion. In fact, we actually had some very good discussion with our previous liaison, which we'll need a new liaison at some point. But with our previous liaison, we had some very good discussion. And one of the things discussed is potentially is this the time to reorganize some stuff within the department? Not just suddenly throw up a job, post it, fill it. Is there more creative ways that we can make things more efficient and maybe even more cost-effective for the town by making some changes within the department at this time? And so that's one of the things that's been discussed throughout the department, department-wide. The other thing that the department's discussed in great detail, and this is not, I think this is very true to departments of this size and communities this size, is the department would like to see us fill from reality is to take the first step to fill the job from within a department. It's a very common practice in the fire service, in communities of our size, and given that our department is quite effective and is realistically a model department for other places, there's the thought that the board might entertain that discussion also. But one is a reorganization discussion in terms of hours and some people and some different things, and all within the same balanced budget. And the other thing that I'd like to look at is we'd like you to entertain the thought of looking at at least taking a look at the internal process and thinking about internal candidates.
Well, certainly internal candidates would never be ruled out anyway.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
On the organizational changes, I would think you'd want your new chief to be very much in the middle of that kind of discussion.
The new chief.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
But what we'd like to do is we'd like to look at taking the chief's hours and reducing them from a full-time chief to a 32-hour chief. And then utilizing the remaining of that hours and some of the other hours, and then adding another person to instead of taking a 40-hour chief, having actually 48 hours a week. And then still that actually remains some money within a budget, if you budget it all, in order to do some officer training. So there's actually a lot we can do with it, and we're trying to expand basically the potential of the department and the services to the citizens. And in fact, if you take it from a 40-hour chief and you made it a 32-hour chief, it's very likely that you would actually save roughly at least $6,000 because you wouldn't be paying any health insurance.
Isn't, well, I don't pretend.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I don't pretend to be the.
No, I'm not, but I'm saying
I think it's 30 hours considered full-time.
it is, but
isn't it?
if we hired someone on a part-time basis, they may not actually utilize the health insurance. But, so what we want to do before we even, talk about a chief is talk about whether or not the board would entertain a discussion of basically reducing the chief's job with the same budget, reduce the chief hours to a 32-hour, which actually Bill was when he got hired years ago. And then with that same budget, take that remaining dollars and get another 16 hours out of someone. So instead of 40 hours, you actually get 48 hours, which allow us to do things like weekend hours, allow us to do things like be here when the building inspector's here. Some other stuff that we can't do without a 40-hour work week. It's a concept we've looked at, we've done all the money, all the figures. It would allow us, we could take the money now, the budgetary stuff that's on administrative positions now, make 48 hours out of it, and still do some officer development, which we really do need to do within the department, is a need that we've seen. This is a time we're in a time of change, and we see that there's a time to take this opportunity to hit some points that we feel need addressing, like development of our command staff, our officers, our captains and lieutenants, and still maybe get some extra, instead of 40, get 48 hours, so we can have some weekend hours, and maybe do a little bit better on having somebody around for the citizens, for the inspections and things like that on a more regular basis.
I think your question, Stephen, or the question you asked was, would the board be open to the discussion, or at least a conversation? And I don't want to speak for my colleagues. I think the answer is yes. So the things that you're talking about right now, would that be brought forward in the form of a proposal?
Yeah, we could.
A written, so
Yeah.
there's a document we can kind of look at, and maybe here's
Yep.
what it is now, here's what we the fire
Yes,
department are
absolutely.
thinking, and here's the benefit of that. It's always
Yes.
nice to have something
Yeah,
in
we
front
have
of
we
you
have
to
a
refer
document that
to.
we've kind of proposed, we
Yeah.
put together that we'd be happy to obviously.
I mean,
put to the
that's
board.
what I would
suggest
Yeah.
to be able to have something to look at.
You're there every day.
and to digest.
We could forward it to the
There's no
board.
one that has better insight into how the place might operate better than those of you who are doing it day
Right.
to day. So
Right.
clearly,
Well,
be
that's why we
receptive
wanted
to
to get the
proposals.
discussion going too, you
Yeah,
know.
so we can send you a
Right, so-
rough outline, a proposal. It's actually more of a proposal of this. We could send that to you in electronic format, anytime, right?
I'd appreciate
sooner
that.
than later.
Absolutely, we could
Yeah.
send it
Yeah.
tomorrow, we could
Yeah.
send it
Yeah,
tonight, yeah.
and I agree with Jeff. I mean, who knows better than the people that are doing it every day, so.
Excellent.
Okay, so we just wanted to get ahead of the game, that's all.
Yeah.
We thought you were coming into.
No,
No,
No, I think it's important
We
to
don't like being
understand that
outnumbered.
we really do welcome that approach. I think I speak for my colleagues as well.
Excuse me.
It is an important piece. We're not starting from ground zero, so to speak.
Right,
We're starting from a point of two things that I think are major. First of all, you've got involvement. Why would you want to take that involvement and just ignore it? I mean, that doesn't serve anybody's purpose.
right.
And the second thing, not only do we have the involvement, but the people who are interested in making something that is good at this point better. Better for whom? Townspeople.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
That's right.
excellent.
Okay.
This department's come a long, long way in the last 25 years.
That's for sure.
I can attest to that, and it keeps getting better because of the leadership in the department itself. I mean, from training to being the chief to just the firefighters, like a few of our guys are taking the red card class, and that's all on their own. So they'll be traveling out west if they pass. You're gonna pass, right? And, but we have a great group of guys and gals, and I mean, they wanna come and they wanna work, and we work well together, so we don't wanna lose that.
For all those reasons, we'd like to build on that.
Yes.
Not lose it. Okay, so you're going to,
Ambulance rates, you want to talk about, we'll send you document, yeah, we'll
Okay.
send you documents
So give us something
electronically
to work
sooner
with.
than later, absolutely.
sure,
And
and we can circle back.
Right, we
Yeah.
can come back anytime.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and ambulance rates, that's what's next on the list.
Yes,
Did you all get the letter? I know I had sent it
Yes.
to Mr. Boyle, and I
I
hadn't shared
I
it.
gave it to everybody.
Okay. I'll summarize very quickly.
Can you tell us what ALS1 and ALS2 is?
Absolutely. So I'll just summarize it as best, and I'll cover it right down. So very simply, ambulance rates. There's two rates that exist, in fact, that a municipality or an ambulance service bills at. It's the Medicare allowable rate. So that's what, if someone has Medicare, Mass Health,
So that's what you're going to get no matter
you're
what?
going to get that. Every time you transport that person, you're going to get that. That's all you're
No matter what
actually
you're
legally
charging.
allowed to bill.
Yeah.
The second rate is the service rates. Those are what's charged to Tufts, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, which is Blue Cross, all those kind of things, all those places, the GIC, I believe, still, and some other things are charged those rates. And so when you look at those rates, you look at things like, there's two issues that we have at hand here. One is the ambulance rate here, the rate, the Hatfield rate. The Hatfield rates have not been changed since 2012, partially because we did an administrative changeover, and in reality, it took a little bit of time to get a handle on all this. The other thing is that we used to do like an à la carte or itemized billing, which is really antiquated, and bundled billing is actually what is usually done now. And when you bundle bill in based on what the level of care is. So there's basic life support, oxygen, stuff like that, splinting, bleeding, that's a BLS call. That's bundled as a BLS call. So everyone you transport, whether it be the Medicare patient or another insurance, it gets that fixed rate. It makes billing a lot simpler, quicker, and actually faster. Then you get into the other options, the ALS1, ALS2. And ALS1 is like an IV, maybe a cardiac monitor, someone with chest pain, things like that. And ALS2 is more advanced stuff, maybe a seizure, a cardiac arrest, or things like that. That's the only difference. In fact, though, when you look at it as a business fashion, when you look from this business standpoint, an ALS1 uses more equipment that's expensive, cost equipment like disposable stuff like needles and things. And an ALS2 even uses more of that. So which is why you see a different rate, because in fact you are incurring, the town is incurring a cost. If we have an ALS1 call, it means we've called, well, there is a chance on the ALS1 calls that we use a paramedic intercept or on ALS2 calls. Well, that's in the $275 that we pay out for that intercept. So obviously, we charge more on those. So then you look at rates, and how do you set your town rate versus the Medicare rate? Well, years ago, people used to say, well, I'm 100%, Medicare plus 100%. Medicare plus 200%. And the problem is happening is that the cost of medical supplies are astronomical. For 2 EpiPens, we pay $425.
Wow.
For 2 EpiPens, and they expire.
Right.
You know, that's expensive. That's 10, you know, if I replace 4, I have to have 4 in the ambulance. $1,000 worth of EpiPens, you know, that's 5% of my expense budget.
Right.
You know, that's just on 4 EpiPens. So things cost money, so services have looked at different rates and this and that. What we did years ago, and what now and many other services have done, is people have gone to using billing companies. We use Coastal Medical Billing, we've used them for a number of years. Well, these companies have the wherewithal to go and look and decide, hey, what rates are collectible and customary? They are reasonable and they are collectible. And their clients are billing them, like as us, we are their clients, are billing these rates and collecting on them in a reasonable fashion in the upwards of 70 to 80%. Because realistically, you know, you figure you pay a lot for health insurance and you pay for health insurance. Well, at some point, thankfully, your health insurance is paying back for your care. So what I propose here is that we adjust our rates, that we move to the column that's entitled proposed rates. It'll bring us more in line with everyone else in reality. It'll be more in collectible and customary rates. The other aspect we have in this town is that we have the ability to abate. So if someone happens to get a bill like this and there is a problem, we have the ability to abate. This town has always had the ability to abate and has absolutely abated people. Most insurances, if you have your health insurance, if you have a copay, it's a flat copay. Very rarely is there a percentage copay. I will tell you, experience tells me that these rates are paid. People pay these rates. And so what I want to do is I want to move our rates to something that in reality is going to bring in more money for the town ambulance, for the service we're providing, and allow us to become business-wise more solvent. The other issue that comes around in this, that is the issue at hand right now, today, is that we need to fix our rates. Our rates are 2012 rates, and they were low in 2012. The other thing that comes in is I spoke to Mr. Boyle briefly about there is some legislation that's going around. The House had a version, the Senate had a version, each one had their own version of an amendment, and it's going back and forth. Because in fact, with the insurance companies, one of the things we run into is that some insurance companies they wanted people to contract with them. So Blue Cross per se would say, contract with us, and if not, we'll pay you this rate every time. But if not, we're going to pay directly to you. So I took you in the ambulance, they'd pay you and they wouldn't pay me. So you'd get a check for $1,000, you'd have to transfer over to the ambulance. Well, needless to say, ambulances weren't getting their money. That went to legislation. There's some legislation that's gone through along with that legislation of making sure insurance companies pay the service provider is also an aspect where they're trying to set a standardized rate in the Commonwealth. It's in legislation. Who knows where it'll go. The House actually, the chief and I had a discussion today, the House had a version, the Senate had a version. We'll see where it trickles out. But it's also, it could take some time to settle down. And in reality, if we do 75 ambulance calls between now and then, I want to make sure that the town is collecting properly and making efficient money on those 75 ambulance calls by utilizing people's insurance. This really should not put on the individual citizen, it should not put any burden on any citizen. This is just a different rate. It's like you go to one doctor, he charges one, another one charges the other. So
I asked about the legislation because
it's a very good question.
would it make a difference in us adopting this proposed rates if legislation's pending that's going to set a different set of rates?
And we don't know where it's
Very
going to go,
short
because
time,
right now
but-
there is a battle between the House and the Senate. There's no question. And
we don't know where or when.
no, we don't know where it went. And I know that what they want to do is they want to set a forum, they want to set a committee with a secretary, maybe a public health, and then 17 people on the committee or something, and then they're going to agree to rates. So when, I wouldn't tell
When
you,
it ever
Brian, I
comes
wouldn't
out.
know when we'd see that.
Okay. Why is only airway and oxygen listed as bundled? Aren't there other things that are?
No, we were never actually, in fact,
Okay.
we never allowed to bill for anything else. You
Okay.
can't bill for Band-Aids, you can't bill for
All right.
things like that. You
Okay.
could only bill for these years ago when we
Great.
were doing à la carte or itemized billing. Now we'll just go straight to bundled, it's more efficient, it's technology-wise, everything's quicker.
Okay, great.
And so I just recommend the board adopt those rates.
Any questions?
No.
Is there a motion to,
Yep.
for the board to adopt the proposed rates as submitted along with bundled billing?
So moved.
Excellent.
Second.
We'll notify them tomorrow, and it'll go in
All in
effect
favor?
immediately.
Aye.
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 Thank
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
should go in effect immediately. I'll notify them tomorrow, tonight, maybe even, the billing company, and they just change it.
One footnote, Alice, we could use some help on abatements.
I would
and
love to.
Criteria for,
Yes, I
abatements.
actually had a discussion, I've had a discussion with the accountant and with the collector, and I would like, and then when, I'll have a discussion with the town administrator, and then eventually, and I talked to our old liaison, and eventually the new liaison on the board, and I really think that we need to eventually sit down, when the dust settles in 2 weeks or so, sit down, maybe one rep from the board, and each of them, and we'll come someday, sit here, we can work on how we're gonna, how process abatements, what kind of information, along with ambulance billing documents and things like that to travel around the town, and to kind of bring everybody to the same page. The chief and I have talked about that. So abatements will come
think it's
in that
important.
we
same,
just need a policy on,
absolutely. We had one before, so I had a draft before, so I'll get it, I'll make sure it comes to the board.
okay,
Easy enough.
thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you. No, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
One
Yes, sir.
quick question. Are signs out for the no parking? Those get any closer to getting put in?
There's not supposed to be any parking there at all, right?
Supposed to be no parking according to the bylaw.
Yeah, okay, but it's not marked, so people are parking.
Oh, you mean the stripes?
Anything, there's people parking out there all the time, so there's no marking saying there's no parking. No, and some days, I'll tell you, like when elections happen,
Yeah,
people are parked everywhere, so
okay,
we need to make that happen.
all right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys, and Carrie.
Next item, Town Council. Brackett and Lucas originally sent us a letter saying that they were going out of business 30 June. Subsequent to that, end of May, we got a letter from Gary Brackett saying, oh, I think I may stay in business myself. Didn't indicate what other kind of staff would be there to support him. We had once earlier talked about going with Coupleman and Page. In fact, we agreed to that before we got a letter from Gary saying, well, he'd like us to consider retaining his services. Any thoughts on?
Is, the only thing I would say is it a contractual?
No, we could use either one. There's not a signed contract, but we need to designate a town council.
Yes, understood. I guess my point was if they went from a larger practice to an individual, to your point, and what are the staffing?
What kind of staff
do
depth do they have?
I mean, I don't think we've had any issues in the past. I think I just didn't want to enter into a long-term contract without knowing ultimately what we were getting ourselves into.
I did.
I mean, that's,
I do have a copy of what Coupleman and Page gave us for a proposal in June of 2014 when we
right.
subsequently went with Coupleman and Page, excuse me, with Brackett and Lucas. And I've gone back and asked them to re-quote their hourly rate. So we'll
fair.
have a
Okay.
benchmark to compare. We don't have to decide this tonight,
Right, I was going to
but
say, maybe we can talk about this at our...
we could close on it at our next meeting. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay,
Fine.
but in one way or another, we need to
Yep, move forward.
move forward on designation of a town council.
Just as an aside, a comment, I personally would prefer to have the ability to access someone that is closer to the area and such, whether it's a representative of Coupleman and Page, or whether it's somebody from within this area. So anything that we come up with, I would hope would reflect that. But we'll see that as we go down.
Well, Coupleman and Page does have a Northampton office.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, as long as, and I'm fine with anybody else, as long as they have that capability.
Right.
Sure.
But I'm not going to Boston.
No,
Worcester
Worcester,
doesn't make
yeah.
any difference, I don't, well, Worcester I don't mind too much, that's
where
not
they-
a big problem.
That's their home.
Yeah. I thought they had an office in Boston, so. Anyway,
DPW, water billing.
In your packet,
Got a number of,
the number of abatements. The bills went out and the abatements came in, so that's par for the course, I guess. So if you just want
Was
to,
on the, is this it? Yeah.
that mine? Okay.
I don't think so.
Are there two?
I've got too much paper.
Mine.
Yeah, I think that's mine,
All right, take it.
but I'm not sure. Is this,
Good look on it,
We'll show
I
you.
have mine here, so.
unless I grab two.
I don't see this in,
No, those weren't in,
Listen.
those were not in.
They were on the,
No.
well, they were on the table when we came in.
I'm sure they're here somewhere.
Do you have them, Jeff, or no? Because I have an extra set.
You got an extra set?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
done.
Walk us through these, will you? Oh,
Okay, so the first one is for 245 East, for 5 Bridge Street. There was a billing error. So the collector brought this to our attention, and they were looking to abate the $75 on the sewer side.
Okay. Do we know what the error was, or?
What happened is, we went through the accounts, and there were some people questionable if they were on sewer or not. So we put the charges on the sewer and let them come to prove that they're not on sewer. And that was one of them that proved that they're not on sewer.
New York and resident, all right. A motion to approve abatement of $75 for residents of 5 Bridge Street.
So move.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, next one.
The next one is 64 Bridge Street. Again, a billing error. This goes back to 2012. The property has changed hands a number of times, and there was a $35.17 bill on there. And again, the collector had brought that to our attention and said the easiest way to clean this up was to, instead of trying to go back to that homeowner who doesn't even own the property anymore,
Okay.
2 times ago, just to abate it.
Motion to approve the
So move.
Second?
64 Bridge Street. All in favor?
Aye.
The next one is for 80 Prospect Street. The meter jumped, and therefore, as you can see by the number,
Yes.
I mean, the documentation is there, is what his recent bills were from 14 to 13, and it's nowhere near there, so we adjusted it accordingly. Tony went up and checked the meter, and the meter was bad, so.
Move to abate.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 What do we have next there?
I've got,
King Street.
51 King?
51 King Street.
Yeah.
Yes, somehow there was a $125 miscellaneous charge on the bill. That shouldn't be there.
All right, motion to approve.
So move.
Second?
Favor?
Aye.
121 West?
121 West Street, the meter, the service, that's where the house froze in the winter.
Oh.
And it was shut off, the Donaldson property. And for some reason, Point Software didn't kick it out of the system, so they received 2 minimum charges. So the meter's out of the house, so it was just a matter of the Point Software.
Motion to abate?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The other one we have, it's not in your packet. I had a discussion with Mr. Boyle this afternoon about, how should we handle Mr. Grossman's? And I'm sure there's a few others within the town, so.
Well, let me do 2 things. One, we voted on a schedule of rates, a rate schedule on the 22nd of April. And not clearly recorded in that vote had to do with the minimum rate. Minimum rate for agriculture. We established it, the minimum rate for residential is $75. And as we did for the water, the agricultural rate was supposed to be 72% of the residential rate. So for the hookup, or for the residential, remained 75, and it should have read $54 for the ag, for the minimum water consumption. And there was not to be any sewer charge. There was none before, and there wasn't any imposed on the 22nd of April 2014. Having said all that, applying that to Mr. Grossman's request, he is correct that he was mischarged for sewer on the ag connection, and the rate for the, what do you call the thing? The minimum charge should have been 75%, excuse me, 72% of the $75 or $54
Correct.
for the minimum water charge. So there should be, however that computes to,
Yeah, so the abatement would be 96, it's $96 even.
So move.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd still like to make a comment about
Sure.
the building. Maybe 5 years ago, I installed an outside hydrant for livestock. And in talking to Phil, and then later his supervisor, the water superintendent, I was advised that this would be classified as agriculture use. At the time, I had to buy my own meter, and I was also allowed to do plumbing, so not only to feed the hydrant, but if 2 exterior spigots that were also used for gardening or other livestock, I was permitted to put on the agriculture meter. So I had an expenditure of probably close to $600 between purchasing the meter and plumbing. And I did all this predicated on the fact that it would be charged at a metered rate for the low agricultural usage that I have, which followed on a philosophy that even when Pat was on the board previously, we worked very hard to get this town to meters, which was felt to be a fair and equitable way to charge for water usage, with sewer being a percentage of that water usage, if you have sewer. So I didn't know about the policy last year, because through billing error, I wasn't charged the flat rate last year. I generally get a bill about $20. So this was the first bill that I got with the new policy of the $75, which should have been $56 flat rate. And I appreciate that you knocked it down to whatever the policy is, a percentage of the residential rate. But I would like to argue to go to an honest metering rate of at least agricultural usage. And I'm actually surprised even residential, why don't we just use actual metered rate? Why does there have to be a flat rate? It just seems like it's a bit of a overreach in billing. It's like a tax on having a water meter. I'm a user of maybe $20 of water twice a year, $40, and I'll now have to pay over $100. And it doesn't seem fair. And I did have to spend money to do this, to accomplish this. So is there an appeal process? Is there a revisiting of this legislation that created the policy, the flat rate? Or how?
Well,
Is there a way to go forward on this?
just one comment. Whether, we're only talking now about the minimum charge. Minimum use charge. After a certain
what it's called? Is it-
after a certain threshold of use, it is by the meter, but there's a minimum charge. And part of the thinking there is, it costs the town a certain amount of money simply to bring the water there, whether that's, and have it available, whether it's ever turned on or not. So there's this minimum charge, once a threshold of use, I don't know how many CCF.
I thought it was like 1,000, you lowered it, lowered it to
Once you crack that threshold of minimum use, then it's strictly by the amount of water actually consumed.
Right, but,
And there's no, and as we indicated, there is no sewer charge on it.
right, of course not, the water's going into the ground. But I guess maybe it's a philosophical debate, but I don't believe that there is a minimum use of infrastructure. It's in the street. It doesn't cost anything to read the meter. It's right next to my other meter. You know what the actual usage is electronically. There might be a small billing charge to send a second bill out, but I don't think it rises to the level of a $50 twice a year, $100, $110 charge for the town through a infrastructure that we've all paid for through either rate taking or taxing. I think it's very unusual to have a metered town with a minimum rate or a threshold rate. I don't think that's a common policy in these small towns.
Actually, we've had that before, have we not?
That I'm not sure, but I was going to suggest that we table this now and get the research done, which substantiates not only your position, but what we're contending is the appropriate course of action, because I'm the new kid on the block here, and it's been a while since I've been involved in this, and so I would probably tend to abstain. That might create a situation where we end up with a no vote at this point. Not a no vote in reality, but no vote at all because of the fact that it hasn't been appropriately researched.
No, it should be looked at. And
Yeah.
I know when
I don't have
I
any problem
first
with
got
that.
the bill, the collector said that there was a study, or there was a consulting engineer utilized, and that it may be the case that this is a reasonable policy for the typical agricultural user, very high, like a potato operation or something. The usage may be enormous, where the minimum threshold doesn't even come into play. But it might have been something since we never used to charge, or we had a flat rate before. But it may be that the policy was crafted without all the knowledge that there are small rate takers like myself. So you're right, I agree with that, if you would do some research, and I think the collector said she was gonna create a spreadsheet of the low users that fall into this column.
I think the best situation is where Phil works closely with a few that have the questions and come up with a summary and a recommendation, so that everybody is heard. It may not change the vote
Yeah,
of the
well, like I
situation,
said-
but at least it's out there and it has been heard.
Having a discussion.
That's fine.
No, that's
Have
fair.
have a
But I
better
think there
discussion
may-
we're doing right now.
There may be a philosophical difference. That you could argue, I mean, there could be selectmen that argue, well, there is some overhead in running a water system. And so everybody has to pay at least something. But you have people that might have a seasonal meter. You might have low users. Is it fair to hit them like this? I don't know. It's a good discussion.
I'd also be interested to see what other towns do. I mean, if this is not precedent setting, then there's some validity to allowing it to remain as it is, and I don't want to mislead anybody here. If we're the only ones doing it and it's highly questionable practice, then I think there's some legitimacy to the point of looking into it much deeper.
Okay.
And I would only disagree with that it's a philosophical reason. I would hope that it was based, and I wasn't part of that discussion, but that it was based on business.
Well, business could
Business
mean-
perspective, not
But business
necessarily
could mean, let's try
philosophical.
to eke out maximum money
Well, you
from
can, I
the
guess,
rate
so,
taker.
well,
That's
so-
an economic desire.
I don't, well, I'd like to think that it was more, if it had to do with overhead, and again, I don't know, Larry, I agree with Pat, I think it's worth looking at, but.
Okay.
But I'm confident that it was done for business reasons. Now, whether somebody wants to say, well, it was philosophical or business, but I mean, that's why we do things, right? We want to be able to,
Yeah,
It was simply, we'll certainly take a look at it.
Yeah.
But it was simply part of an overall look at a structure. And we considered tiered structure with high users getting one
Right.
price versus variable pricing.
right, some people have variable prices.
Fixed pricing. We looked at a variety of different ways and what should be charged for, what should be let go. Should we have an agricultural rate or not, or just one rate for everyone? There were a variety of factors that try and build to a schedule that would at least cover our operating expenses for the town, not the investments in the capital that's required for expansion of the system or significant maintenance, but simply the operating, day-to-day operations.
Right, but I just know we have meters and we have
Yeah.
exact measuring, and that was the theory of going to meters, 100% metering. So, but okay, thanks for looking at it.
Sure.
I paid the bill.
Well, you should get a rebate now.
Oh, now I'm gonna rebate. Okay. I didn't want to get a penalty.
No.
So we'll collect your interest.
Thank you.
welcome.
Thanks. Oh. Have you all read the management report?
To be honest, I have not done it
Were
as
there-
extensively as
All right,
I
well,
would
would there be
prefer.
any problem if we went out of order and did the management letter first, and then come back to this? Topic 5 should read town administrator scope, not,
Well, to tell you the truth, on topic 6, the management letter, I would just as soon see postponed until our next meeting to give us a little bit more time to analyze it thoroughly. There's quite a bit of information there.
all right. Well, let me just let folks know what it contained, and we'll defer our discussion and way ahead on it.
Well, you're going to need to, you're not going to be looking to vote to accept.
We don't
Tonight.
accept, this is the letter, we have it.
Okay, so that's the end of the story?
This is just what we have to deal with. It's not an acceptance.
Why don't we make copies of it and have
You
it
have
available? No, I do. But have it available at Town Hall, in the hall where other documents are, and if anybody's interested in getting a copy of it, they can read it. I certainly don't want to spend any time going over 13 pages that, at this point in time, a little leery about doing that.
Well, we won't discuss the whole thing, but we do need to put it on the table as to what we got. And there are some very significant issues that have been raised in the latest review of our financial operations. I'll just hit the highlights. Raising the issue of OPEB, our other post-employment benefits. Recall, we established an account, we haven't put any money into it. Got an outstanding liability of $2.5 million. And reminding us the average age of the workforce here is over 50 years, so it's really time to start putting money into that. Municipal data breach protection, reminding us about necessary to look at our systems and policies and procedures regarding how we deal with the financial data that we have. A variety of weaknesses concerning cash reconciliation with the accountant, with the school, the periodicity of those across the board. A number of accounting issues with practices not being consistent with GASB or normal accounting standards. Timeliness of the submissions of our reports to the Department of Revenue being late, significantly late. Need for increased emphasis on fraud prevention measures, establishing an internal audit process, improving our internal management controls, some administrative things about having contracts properly filed with the town accountant, some issues regarding cash handling, some suggestions regarding investment policies, and in any event, a significant number of issues that have been addressed to the board that we need to take on. And if you choose, we'll
Well,
defer
I don't
the
want
full
to,
discussion to a future time.
what I would like to see is two things. First of all, that we do have discussion, but not the full 13 pages
Oh, yeah.
at a meeting. We can break
We're
it
not.
down and we can do
No,
two or three categories.
That isn't the intent tonight.
And the other thing I think is almost as important, maybe even more important, is that copies of that, this is a report for the town, not just for the Board of Selectmen, and make copies available or access to it
Put them online.
online, whatever. You know, there are those of us that are not online.
Oh,
But no, in all seriousness, we pay good money for that, and it's important that we take the time to deal with it. And forgive me repeating myself, but take a couple of those in order and set aside time that we would discuss it publicly over the next 2 months, so that the value of that report can be further appreciated. And then maybe at the end, for those out there looking and listening to that, looking at the report being given and listening to it and so on, we could set up a time to meet with them and discuss. It's all about disseminating the information to townspeople. That's what we work for.
Right.
well, that's what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
But related to this, and why I wanted to take that out of order, we have a new town administrator coming on board. That town administrator has had experience here with the budget process, that type of thing. She's had, in her most recent job, responsibility for managing a $25 million account, which is almost double the operating account of the town of Hatfield. We've got some very significant issues in the financial management area. And we had talked about this as we were doing interviews with the two finalists about potentially expanding the scope of their specific responsibilities, whomever we chose. And given the individual we did choose, and given the experiences she's had, and given the problems outlined very starkly in this management report, I'd like to put on the table a suggestion of assigning responsibility for the town accountant to the new town administrator. In fact, I had town meeting come out a different way if we had an appointed collector and treasurer. We would have suggested putting that in that same group, so you'd have one integrated financial management activity with someone here day to day overseeing and being able to assist in helping integrate that process.
I don't have a problem necessarily doing that, but I think we're doing it, if we vote on it tonight, it's a bit premature. I think what we need to do is we need to wait till the new town administrator comes on board, and he or she can sit with Derek and come up with a combined summary, if you will, of how this all should be handled. You're absolutely right, Jeff. There's need to work on this. I'm only questioning the time frame, and I don't want us to make a premature decision without some solid input, especially from the new town administrator. Because I don't know what his or her feelings are regarding this particular scenario. So that's my 2 cents.
I think it's a good idea, actually. I think the town administrator should have more responsibilities within town hall in general, but from a financial team lead, I think it makes sense. I think it would also make sense just to make sure Marlene's on board with it as well. And I'm sure she is, because when we ask those interview questions, as far as taking on more responsibility, given her background here as well as her financial background in her current position, we didn't specifically ask the question about the accountant, but we were alluding to the fact of taking on more responsibility, and she was okay with that. But I don't see what waiting a week.
Actually, yeah, I don't have any problem. Actually, I did talk specifically about this. She's very receptive to it and understands some of the issues.
Well, that's good to know, because brings it more onto the table and lets me feel more comfortable moving forward. Just wanted to converse with Derek and see what kind of...
No surprises our first day at work?
Exactly. And since well, she's not the new person on the block, so to speak, but it's been a while since she's been here, and Derek certainly is the new person on the block.
Right.
And so I want to make sure that they are in total agreement as to process here. And again, I have no problem with the concept. Matter of fact, I think it's a good one. But we just need to be careful here.
Okay. Personnel policies, I don't have any desire to trot through this.
Move to postpone?
Well, here's...
I tried.
No,
Brian,
no.
you're awful quiet down here, man.
A lot of talking
Well,
going on to my
I think
right.
we're at a stage where all the changes made to date, to include these being proposed, ought to be put into a single document
Yeah.
that we can then address. We've been doing this piece by piece.
Right, just so...
And there's some duplication.
Right.
It just needs to be packaged as a single, here's the draft.
Right, and
The
just-
working draft,
and
and
for
then-
Pat and the townspeople,
And then we can,
we've been doing it piece by piece, purposely,
fine.
because it was such a large
I'd
document.
suggest we
so.
defer this until our new town administrator comes, package it up, and then we'll take it on from there.
On a personal note, I think you're to be commended for the amount of work that's been put into that, to say the least. And you're right, it has been needed for some time.
The pavilion,
Could you give an update, please? What is that problem?
oh, okay. Well, if you recall at town meeting, apparently twice, well, first the Lions Club donated some property to the town. Twice, town voted to give that area where the Lions Club is located with their pavilion back to the Lions Club. Except that, twice they misidentified what was to be transferred. And so, and this had been how many years ago? 88, 89 time frames. And then all this time passed, so they came back because they'd like to make some investments in the property itself. Came back to town meeting
Excuse me.
again, and we think now we've got properly identified what is exactly to be conveyed. And town meeting was receptive to the notion of conveying it. However, town council has reminded, the Board of Selectmen cannot give away land. We must get it appraised. If it's valued at $25,000 or less, yes, we could simply transfer it to the Lions Club as town meeting has approved. If it's more than that, then we have an issue about going forward soliciting proposals as we would do with any other town property that we choose to dispose of. So right now, we're getting an appraisal, and that's according to Paul, who's not here now, but he said we should have that within a week or so. So we should have some number for our next meeting.
Okay.
And then have a session with folks representing the Lions Club, deciding where we want to go, depending on what that number is. You know, one option might be a long-term lease, as opposed to a transfer if there's going to be an issue with the value.
And how about a lease for 100 years?
By law, we can only do, I think, 20 years.
25. Oh, 20, 20 years.
So,
Well, I won't be around, so 20 years is okay.
okay, well, that's kind of, that's where we are.
Okay, thank you.
So that's open as well. Center School, just a reminder that our contractor has filed for a permit to dismantle the Center School. The building inspector notified the Historical Commission. This triggers the demo delay process, our demo delay bylaw, which really has two pieces. First piece, Historical Commission holds a hearing to determine whether the building is significant. Let's say it does, then it triggers a second public hearing to see whether it should be preferably preserved. Could be up to 12 months or sooner if they release it. But that's where we are right now. We have the contract out, but we're waiting see what happens with the hearing tomorrow, and then subsequent hearing if there is one. And
What time is the
presumably,
hearing tomorrow?
I don't
wasn't
know.
aware of it. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was information within this.
Old business. We need to set a date, or we don't have to do this tonight, but we need to set a date shortly for a special town meeting regarding Town Hall Phase 2. Recall at town meeting, we got an additional, $380,000 from CPA toward the ADA and compliance issues with respect to.
Yep.
Okay, we're still funding short for completion of those ADA requirements. We owe a periodic report to the Department of Public Safety Architectural Access Board. Next report is due 1 September this year. And there's subsequent reports after that, but we have to have all the work done, making this building totally ADA compliant by 1 September, and with elevators operating and certified and everything else, by 1 September of 2018. So we need to come back to town meeting with a special town meeting to get the additional funds so we can close on, with the Department of Public Safety, on all the ADA and code compliance issues. So just start thinking about what might work as a real date, perhaps in October or thereabouts. TV studio, just so you know, we're being asked to relocate by the school committee. There's been a couple sessions. John Roberts sent me a note this past week saying he thinks he has a workable, doable plan, and he'll get back after meeting with the school committee, I think on the 17th, he said.
Yes, yeah, a couple weeks.
And then he'll come back to us. And John is going to, I've asked John to get a quick discussion ahead of the meeting here. He's going to get with Mr. Roberts to make sure he understands what some of the issues he has and lead items he needs to take care of on any move.
And that is all regarding the band looking to acquire the space where the current TV studio is, just for people that aren't up to speed, so.
Is there an actual proposal out?
Oh, yeah.
The impact on, and us and on them?
Yes.
And is there access to it at this point?
Yes.
Where would I get that?
Probably from John Robert,
Okay.
from a superintendent. The idea is the band, the good news is the band has outgrown the current band room. The bad news is the band has outgrown the current band room. So the available space that isn't classroom which would make sense from an architectural standpoint, from the band director in the school, was the area around where the where the TV, where the cable TV programs are held. And then doing a swap where in the current band room, there would be accommodations made for the cable division or the cable TV department to have their equipment. It's not that simple, of course, but that's
No, but
that's the
that's-
gist, kind of doing a swap.
Summary, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a few other quick things here. In your packet, is there a motion to approve appointment of Ms. Susan A. Hurley, Vice Angela Wright to the Council on Aging?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's a program on the 21st of May, Hampshire Council of Governments sponsoring it. It's one of several they're sponsoring. This one has to do with the roles, responsibilities, and relationship of the town administrator and select board. And Fran Goodgen has urged that there be a representation from the Board of Selectmen,
Was that June, Jeff?
21st of May.
Well, we missed that one.
Cancel
Oh,
that.
excuse me. No, I'm.
Or they really send something out. Usually I get it a week before.
Don't blame me.
I apologize. That's
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were, I didn't know if it, just an old document that had been in there, or,
no, it's I guess it's 11 June,
I probably got it on the 21st of May, so,
June 11th, I'm sorry.
that's all right.
I was reading down here, this is the date of his note. June 11th, roles, responsibilities, and relationship of town administrator and the select board. I'm representing Hatfield at the PVPC annual function on that same time and day. Anyone else be available to go there?
June 11th, where exactly?
Old Courthouse, 99 Main Street, Northampton, 7 to 8:30 p.m.
7, what?
7 to 8:30.
7 to 8:30 p.m. Oh, I thought you said 8. I was like, wait a minute, not going to happen. Old Court.
Are the town administrators invited to that also?
Yes, absolutely.
Can she represent us, and then none of us have to go? No, you by the smile on your face, I know that's not going to be the case.
No,
Okay, yes, I will go, that's fine.
Okay,
I'm not a problem. And I did read that, by the way, and the entrance is on Gothic Street, I believe.
Yeah, it's on the
You
side.
obviously can't use the front.
Right, yeah.
Give me my ladder. Old Courthouse, June 11th. 7 to
7 p.m.
8:30?
7 to 8:30.
Next Thursday.
Thank you. To 8:30. Okay.
Couple other quick things. We have, just a clarification, Secretary of Commonwealth publishes a legal list of holidays for the state. Under Mass law, Sunday holidays are celebrated on Monday, Saturday holidays are celebrated on Saturday. Our previous HR policy has reflected Saturday holidays being celebrated on Friday. Just to confirm past practice for this year, is there a motion to approve town hall staff celebrating Independence Day on Friday,
So moved.
the 3rd?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would you
Why
tell?
would we take it away from them?
Pardon?
Why would we take it away from them without some discussion? A little common sense. I don't mean for us. Not at all.
Well, why does the state of Massachusetts have Saturday being celebrated on Saturday?
I know. You'll have to check with them.
Well, I'm not, got enough problems. There's one other thing, we can take this up tonight or defer it, but I'm not going to mention the individual's name, but an employee of the town worked a number of hours. I think you have this in your package.
Looks familiar.
And is asked for consideration for payment for those hours. there were some issues about what was worked on, but no question about, in fact, he did work. Whether or not that should have been done some time earlier versus when it finally got done is a separate issue. But as far as I understand, if in fact we allow or suffer someone to work, we owe them compensation for the time that they worked.
Is there enough
Have you
of-
not read this?
No, I did
All right,
read it,
well-
yeah. I don't have a, you did raise a question in my mind, though. I mean, is this, and I'm not sure who answers it, so I'll say it, and then we can deal with it later. But is this something that realistically should have been finished in the time frame that was allowed? And I think that's a heavy part of our discussion in the future as to whether there should be payment or not. It's not as simply cut and dry as we're made to believe, and I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. That's what I think, but I'd defer to both of you.
I would agree. We'll get a few more facts from the people. Because you're right, on the surface, you know, people should be compensated for working, but what's the scope?
Yeah.
You know, what was the reasoning for
And I mean,
the extra hour?
we're not going to find that out unless we have his or her superior discussion with them as well as the individual that we're talking, you know, we're alluding to. And keep in mind, for me personally, time earned, money spent, end of story. But the circumstances, I think, raise a question here. It can be cleared up in probably 5 minutes.
It could, I think.
And I'm okay with a recommendation from you if you want to meet with the individual.
Oh,
Jeff.
I know
That's-
exactly what's happened here.
Yeah.
But I
If you're
think,
comfortable with it and just come back, I don't see any reason why I can't move on that, but I would like the clarification first, if there's a question as to why, that it get answered.
all right, I'll take it on and come back. All right, any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That was,
You're having too many one more things here.